The first year we had Suzuki, we sold 160 some Suzukis in the first 6 months versus the previous operator selling about 100 a year. So we already tripled the size.
Kia 20 years ago is not the brand you know today. In this episode, Jim and I are going to talk about how he went from selling 100 Kias a year to 1,400 Kias a year, what it looked like to gain Ford and gain Mitsubishi and Suzuki, and practical sales tips that you can use today to grow and scale your business. All right, stay tuned and let's rethink sales.
How you can be the greatest salesperson on the planet.
Jim, I am so excited for today's episode because I've just been thinking about just so many pieces of wisdom that you've shared with me over the years. And one I was thinking about recently is how you acquired Kia. I remember you telling me this story, and I'd love for you to share with us in a moment what that was like. But I just remember how impactful it was for you to just share of like, hey, I'm not going to do things the way everyone else did them. So I know you have something to share first, but can you share that story
Yep,
and talk about what you learned from it as you did something different than no one else did?
absolutely. So first of all, I want to just, I know we've talked about this before, Derek, but I want to be very clear that you just told me what
Yeah,
this is
that's
going to
right.
be all about just now, right now. I have no idea about
Mhm.
Kia. I have no idea about any of that. And so just to be clear, the idea behind what we're doing here is two guys, sometimes a
Yeah,
second or third
absolutely.
party
Yeah.
will join us, or a fourth, whatever. So it's people getting together and having a conversation. So if I were going to meet somebody in a coffee shop to have a cup of
Yeah,
coffee,
that's so
I would
true.
not rehearse that. I would not practice it. I would not have a script. I wouldn't. I would just show up and I'd
Mhm.
say, "Hey, how was Christmas?" And they would say something, and then I would say something, or, "Hey, how was your holiday? Did you go anywhere special for vacation?" This is somebody I haven't talked to in years, and that's how we would go. "How's the family doing? Where you been? What are you doing?" And so I wouldn't rehearse it. And so I want to be very clear what the intent of this discussion is, and it's not meant to be rehearsed or diagrammed or edited. It really isn't. It's just two guys having a conversation. And so
Yep.
already you've thrown me a curveball
Right.
about Kia, which I wasn't prepared for that, and that's fine. And my challenge to you from day one has been try to stump me, try to stump me. So let's talk about Kia.
Yeah.
So that's a very interesting story. And so at the time of Kia, I was
Okay.
a Suzuki Jeep dealer, and I had an opportunity
Mhm.
to trade the Jeep franchise for the Kia franchise. And so we entered into a discussion with the Kia dealer, the local Kia dealer, and I really wasn't all that excited about Kia. I really wasn't. And so people give me credit for like
Yeah,
going and getting
right.
Kia, and
Yeah.
boy,
I
Jim,
mean,
that
it
was so
seems like
smart.
you were a
I
big
really
help
wasn't
to
excited
what they
about it.
become today.
Can,
Not that it was just on you solely, but you were one of the dealerships that helped them, become
no,
what they
no,
are
no,
today.
no.
That's powerful. So,
But yeah, but I want to make the point though that people give me credit for the brilliant move of acquiring Kia.
Mhm.
Well, that's not the way it started off. So there was some interest. I talked to the owner of the Kia dealership, and we had a discussion about what I
This
would
is one of their
do. It's
brand
sort of like a
kind of their brand
negotiation. I'll
representatives
pay
from the
this much.
kind of Kia corporate. Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Another a
Mhm.
Kia dealer. Yeah, it was another me, right? And so I had Jeep. He wanted Jeep. He had Kia. I wasn't so sure I wanted to get rid of my Jeep franchise to get Kia.
Yeah.
Remember, this is my dad. My dad is the one that started the Oldsmobile Jeep dealership. So I just wasn't all that excited about it. But we did enter into
Mhm.
negotiations, and there were some numbers on the table. And so, and I pretty much kind of dropped it. I just wasn't that interested. At that time, I was very, very successful as a Suzuki dealer. We were selling more Suzukis than we ever imagined we would. We were making a lot of money. The dealership was doing well. It was like, why do I need to bring Kia into the business, right? So pretty much was left like that. I went to my think tank. Now I want everybody to understand this and just think about what I'm going to say next. Think tank is an opportunity to get around like-minded individuals and to seek expert counsel. And so there's always going to be somebody in a room that's very good at this, that, or the other thing that maybe you're not as good at, or maybe you're the best at it in the room. So you would become a mentor to the other people in the think tank, or they would become mentors to you. So depending on what it is you're trying to accomplish, it goes both ways. That's what a think tank truly is all about. It's about giving and it's about gaining, right? Givers gain. So, anyways, I'm in my think tank. We call this a 20 group in the automobile language. And so I'm at my 20 group meeting, and it was just
Mhm.
at that time, it was Katie and I, right?
Yeah.
And I don't want to say just Katie, but it was Katie and I. And so we're sitting there, and my very, very good friend, Jerry Vanderveer, talked about having just acquired Kia and how excited he was about Kia and how how what the things they were going to do and what their future was and all that. And he was really enthusiastic. He is one enthusiastic guy, anyways, but he was particularly enthusiastic about this. Then he told the group what he paid for the franchise. Now he didn't trade anything. He
Mhm.
just bought the franchise from somebody else in the market who had the Kia franchise, the Kia dealership. So he bought it, right? Because you can't you have to buy these from somebody. The only other way to get one would be if there was an open point, which is highly unusual. I've done that as well, by the way, but it's not as easy to do as it would be to just flat out buy. So he told me what he bought, which was like a lot of money. And I'm thinking, and I remember like it was yesterday, I elbowed Katie and I wrote her a note. Because this is a meeting, right?
Yeah.
You're not supposed to be talking amongst each other. So I wrote her a note and I said, Katie, we got to get Kia, right? So I wrote that note to Katie. I went back and I called the fellow that I had been negotiating with, and he says, "Geez, Jim, I was thinking about you, and I was going to call you, and you beat me to the punch." I said, "No worries." I said, "I'd like to." And he told me what he would be willing to do, meaning that he had made the offer more appealing, and so I made the deal. Now at that time, the Kia franchise, where it was selling roughly 100 Kias a year, and I didn't want it, right? And so I made the deal, and now I've got the help of
Mhm.
Jerry
Mhm.
and my think tank
Yeah.
and just different the different stuff, and we took that franchise from 100
Wow.
to 1400. 1,400, 1,400 in about, I would say about 3 or 4 years. I don't know the exact math there.
Mhm.
My son-in-law could tell me, or my son. I just don't recall. But that we capped out at 1,400. We capped out at 1,300 brand new Suzuki's, 1,320 to be exact. And I believe the Kia number was like 1,410 or something like that. And we were rock stars. We were one of the biggest Kia dealerships in the entire country, along with being one of the biggest Suzuki dealerships in the entire country. I would say ranging from top five to top 10. And then a lot more people came aboard. So we ended up, when I got out, we were probably,
Yeah.
top 25. It's just that there were some really big volume players in, New York City and Los Angeles and this kind of a thing. And we just weren't in that kind of a
Right.
market, but we did very, very well with Kia. But interestingly, it was the idea of having some sense of an open mind and but in addition to that, seeking expert counsel, right? And so that's what happened. It was the expert counsel that caused me to pull the trigger, so to speak, and to become a Kia a dealership. And now today, the genesis of that original conversation has led to I did in fact get an open point, so I paid nothing for the dealership in Uniontown, which is Kia and Mitsubishi. These are two open points that I created because of my knowledge of the automobile business. So I got a hold
Yeah.
of Mitsubishi, I got a hold of Kia, and we agreed to that we would be the Kia dealership, Kia rep in Uniontown, along with Mitsubishi. Bought some land, built two beautiful buildings. We have a very, very attractive campus there, and we have Todd Holland, who is a close friend of mine, running that operation and just knocking it out of the park. So out of that original, I don't want Kia, we got 1,400 Kias a year, and then because we were doing so well, we got this open point, free, free,
Yeah.
free, along with Mitsubishi, and so we took Mitsubishi to be also one of the biggest Mitsubishi dealerships in the country, not number one, but rather large. From there, the children bought a Kia dealership in Wexford. So now there's three Kia dealerships in the group, and then they bought another one in Georgia. So now there's four. And so it's interesting that out of that original "I don't want Kia" type of a scenario, as to what happened.
Yeah.
So hopefully that answers your question. I don't want to always come across as being this super crystal ball kind of guy that has all the right ideas. I want to be very
Yeah.
clear. I did not want Kia. I want to be very
Yeah.
clear. I did not,
Yeah.
did not want Suzuki. I had made an offer on
Yeah.
Suzuki. But in the meantime, that didn't work out. So it's
Yeah.
like I moved on. I was selling Jeeps and used cars at the time, doing very well, making a lot of money. I get a call from the guy that has Suzuki. He says, "Hey, Jim, would you spend X for this?" No, I would not. I'm doing good. I got Jeep and used cars. This was before Kia. And he said, "Well, I guess we have a deal." I'm like, "What?" And I'm a man. I mean, I listen. If I make a deal, I make a deal. If it's a handshake, whatever. So I remember very clearly. I got my son, Jim Shorkey the third. I got my brother-in-law, Dave Shannon. I got my brother, Russell Shorkey, M. Russell Shorkey, up in my office. And I said, "Hey, guys,"
Right.
and I'm kind of sad. I'm like, "Oh, geez, I don't know if I want to."
Yeah.
I'm like kind of having buyer's remorse, so to speak. But I had to agree to a deal. So I get him up in my office. I said, "Guys, looks like we're going to be a Suzuki dealer." And they it makes me
Yeah,
cry.
come
They were
on. Yeah,
so
yeah.
excited. Their enthusiasm, just like Jerry, they were so excited. They were so enthusiastic. They get their phones out. They're looking at Suzuki, like, "Oh man, this is great." And so they got so excited, got me excited, and we went on. The first year we had Suzuki, we sold 160 some Suzukis
Wow.
in the first 6 months versus the previous operator selling about 100 a year. So we already tripled the size. Went on to next, it was like I think 800